Welcome, storyteller. So, in this video, I'm going to explain a story of how I really did not apply the fluff on the fly and crunch on the time mentality, and I had my first TPK. Yeah, so let me give a brief overhaul. It was a two-player party. They were basically in a world that I called the Below. Basically, in this campaign setting, the overworld, or the world like above the ground, was all destroyed because of the huge wizard war, which basically was like nuclear fallout. So the entire world had to flee into the Below. And down in the Below is dark, scary, and dangerous. And this is not a place where no one who's not an adventurer who's willing to die adventures in. They stay in the little town of Hope that is fortified and is on top of a ravine that nothing from the Below can come up on. So here's what happened. The players, one was a like a 7-year-old gnome vampire, I believe, and then the other one was a wizard necromancer. No, not wizard necromancer. Gunslinger. That's what she was. She was a gunslinger. So what I was bringing them through the Below. They were going through the ravine in order to get towards the Ghost City? Yeah, the Ghost City, which they wanted to go there in order to free the ghosts from whatever was tormenting them or holding them into that sort of perpetual afterlife. Here's what happened. I basically explained the scenario, and I was trying to give them an overview of how the scene was looking. So there was these these pink naked mole rat bat-looking creatures that were flying in the sky, basically sturges. There were these little bugs that were crittling all over the ground. And then I described all the way to their left this huge battle between these two creatures, basically an Otyugh and a hooked horror, and how they were fighting to the death. Now, here's my mistake. Instead of telling the players that this was a scene, do not interact with it, and just, I will control you, just trust me, I allowed them to react. So the gunslinger was like, oh yeah, I want to do something. So she pulls out her, basically, if you ever watch Critical Role, she pulled out Bad News, but on complete and utter steroids. So she pulled out Bad News, cocked that thing on the ground, and she had to mount it to a rock in order to keep it from blowing her away. Aimed up, boom! And she shot. It was loud as hell, and because she shot, she basically disturbed all the bat-looking creatures, the sturges, on top of the ceiling. And this is where I was like, oh yeah, I can introduce that, there are consequences when you don't think about what you do on the Below. Here's my mistake. I believe it was like 5 sturges against them, because I rolled on a random encounter table, and they got murked. Like, they got destroyed, because I decided to do crunch on the fly, which really did not work out for them in the long run, as they both died horribly. I couldn't think of a justifiable reason to bring them back to life, because they don't like being, they don't like to be given things. They want to earn it, or for there to be a story sense or reason for it. And because I didn't have anything prepared, and my crunch was on the fly, I winded up killing them. And they were very upset, but they're like, you know what, Clue, it's alright, we'll make some new characters, and this time, we will be careful. So, I learned the lesson of, if you're going to do scenes like that involve moving parts, ensure that you control, don't give, these are like one of the few times you steal player agency in order to protect them, or if you're going to let them do it, just don't try to put crunch on the fly, because you'll wind up killing all your players, and they'll be very upset. But at the end of the day, they'll make new characters, and they find now they actually love their new characters way better than their old characters right now, which makes me happy because it feels like I didn't completely ruin them. But that was the story of how I had my first TPK and how I learned the lesson of fluff on the fly and crunch on the time. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next video, and in a world without fantasy, sometimes you need little dungeons and dragons.